Deserts make up about a third of the Earth's surface. Looking at them, it seems like there is nothing here but sand and the scorching sun. But in fact, these areas are full of mysterious and inexplicable phenomena. In this video, you will get acquainted with the most amazing and unique discoveries that have long been hidden from our eyes. Enjoy the viewing. Our planet did not always look the way we are used to seeing it on the globe. More than 175 million years ago, there was a supercontinent called Pangaea on Earth, which broke up, separating Africa, South America, Australia, India, and Antarctica. All this happened after intercontinental reef systems evolved into the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. Now something similar is happening in East Africa, and Africa is gradually being divided into two parts. From northern Ethiopia to central Mozambique, a large rift formation called the East African Rift has formed. Rifts are formed as a result of the separation of two tectonic plates. The Rift Valley is spreading at a rate of several yards per year. According to this data, scientists suggest that the separation of East Africa from the main continent will occur in 3-4 million years. Now the width of the rift reaches 62 miles, and the depth is 3,000 feet. As a result of what is happening in the rift zone of the Red Sea, a new oceanic crust is being formed, and after the separation of East Africa, a new ocean should appear here. In Australia, on the Finnis Plateau, 37 miles from the settlement of Marae, the largest geoglyph on our planet, named the Mari Man, or Stuart Giant, is situated. This image was discovered from the air by pilot Trevor Smith in June 1998. The gigantic geoglyph depicted a hunter holding a throwing stick. The height of the man drawn on the ground was more than 2 miles, and the total perimeter of the drawing exceeded 17 miles. Immediately after the discovery of the geoglyph, scientists began to study it. In their opinion, the drawing was created recently, presumably shortly before its discovery, using GPS and a bulldozer over 8-10 weeks. Due to the peculiarities of the soil, the lines gradually fade and even have to be restored so that the geoglyph does not disappear from the face of the Earth. Of course, everyone was interested in who the author of this gigantic image was. The first suspicions fell on people from the Araban tribe. But the appearance of the geoglyph caused the Aborigines dissatisfaction. They believed that someone had desecrated their lands in this way. In some places of the Stuart Giant, pegs were found, which were most likely used for marking and helped the author of the drawing create a masterpiece of impressive scale. And if it wasn't the Aborigines, it was probably an unknown artist wishing to create a sensation. After all, the geoglyph was considered an image of an ancient civilization until it became clear that the lines of the drawing quickly disappear. But then it remains unclear how for more than 2 months they remained unnoticed by the indigenous residents. During excavations in Egypt, archaeologists regularly discover interesting finds. One of them was a mysterious staircase located near the Great Pyramids in Giza. Scientists have been trying for a long time to understand who built it and where it leads. The mysterious staircase is inside the wall. Its steps descend 100 feet underground, forming a narrow passage leading to a dead end. No images or hieroglyphs were found on the walls inside the passage that could help archaeologists unravel the mystery of the corridor's purpose. A large stone block was found at the top of the trench. Most likely, the corridor was completely covered from above with such blocks in the past. At the very bottom of the mysterious corridor, it was very damp. This led scientists to believe that this place was built by the Romans and used to cool amphorae. At the same time, the corridor was similar to the entrance to the system of underground tunnels that the Egyptians built. Therefore, Egyptologists also suggest that the staircase could serve as a secret entrance to the temple of the god Serapis, which has not yet been discovered by archaeologists. At the moment, excavations in the territory of the mysterious staircase continue, and perhaps it will become the key to making new discoveries related to the history of ancient Egypt. In the sandy plains and deserts of Australia live amazing lizards known as Molox from the Agamidae family. Their unusual appearance has also earned them the names thorny devil or spiky dragon. The main name, Moloch, was given to these lizards in honor of the pagan deity Moloch, to whom human sacrifices were reportedly made according to local legends. These reptiles were first described in 1841 by British biologist John Edward Gray. Their main feature is their spines, which serve a vital function. With them, the Molochs collect morning dew from plants, thus providing themselves with water in the desert. The lizard's weight can increase by up to 30% when it comes into contact with water. Another amazing feature of the reptile is that it can change its color depending on the temperature and lighting. Molochs grow up to 8 inches. They are active only during the day. These lizards belong to the Myrmecophagidae, animals that feed on ants. In addition, they are also an example of convergent evolution, in which external similarities arise between organisms of different groups living in similar conditions. Thus, the Molochs are very similar in appearance and behavior to the North American horned lizards and some round-headed lizards. Many tourists driving along the Pan American Highway in Chile stop their cars to figure out what exactly rises amid the sandy dunes of the Atacama Desert. A gigantic hand pointing to the sky suggests that a giant is buried deep in the hot sands. But, of course, there are no giants there. The enormous palm was erected in the desert in 1992. Its creator is Chilean sculptor Mario Irarrázaval. The artwork is made of reinforced concrete, and the height of the palm is 35 feet. The creator of the sculpture explained that it demonstrates how vulnerable and helpless a person left alone against the forces of nature is. The Atacama Desert was chosen for this installation for a reason. This place is considered the hottest desert in the world. It is even called the Valley of Death, as for many tens of miles, except for sand and sun, there is nothing here. Despite the harsh desert conditions, there are plenty of tourists who want to touch this sculpture. Some of them try to leave a memory of themselves in the form of various inscriptions, which undoubtedly spoils the attraction. Fortunately, local authorities care for the giant hand and periodically erase the autographs of unscrupulous tourists from it. The sandy landscapes of the Namib Desert are adorned with whimsical circles, which are areas of land with a depression. Inside each circle there is no vegetation, while the edges are covered with dry grass. The diameter of the fairy circles varies from 6 to 50 feet. The most amazing thing is that they disappear and reappear in the same place. Local residents have made up legends about this amazing phenomenon, according to which the circles are traces of gods who descended to Earth. Scientists, for their part, have long been puzzled and did not understand the nature of this phenomenon. In their opinion, fairy circles could have appeared as a result of self-regulation attempts by plants in drought conditions. Another theory suggested that the plants were killed by termites that feed on roots. Recent research by scientists has helped them come up with the most accurate explanation for the formation of mysterious circles. They assumed that the milkweed colonized the sandy plains during a more favorable climate. In conditions of severe drought, the plants died but left juice in the soil, which retains its toxicity for a long period. During the observation, scientists also found that after rains, new grass grows inside the circle, which quickly dies. The analysis of the soil from the fairy circles and from under the dead plants of milkweed confirmed their similarity in phytochemistry. And this means that young plants died as a result of poisoning by toxic soil. This study not only allowed us to understand the nature of the fairy circles, but also to discover new ones in other deserts, although it was previously believed that they only occur in Namibia. There is an amazing place in Namibia, a real ghost town where life once thrived. In 1908, a railway worker named Zacharias Lawala accidentally found a diamond. He gave his find to the roadmaster August Stouch, who in turn shared it with the mining engineer Zonka Neeson. Stauch and Neeson realized that many diamonds could be found in this area and bought the right to mine them, after which they announced their discovery. From that moment on, a real diamond fever began. In the same year, not far from the place where precious minerals were extracted, the city of Colemanskop was founded, which quickly began to develop. A school, hospital, bakeries, shops, and even a concert hall were built here. Gradually, Colemanskop turned into a model German city, which had everything necessary for a comfortable life. By the beginning of World War I, at least 5 million carats of diamonds were found near the city. In 1920, there were 344 white settlers and 800 local workers living here. However, diamond mining gradually declined, and in 1926, a new rich deposit of the precious mineral was found 170 miles from Colemanskop, and the population of the once developed city began to decrease. In 1956, municipal institutions were closed and the city finally became deserted. By 1980, Colemanskop was completely abandoned and buried in sand. However, the De Beers Company decided to restore the city and open a real open-air museum. Now all interested tourists can visit Colemanskop. The Sahara is considered the largest of the hottest and driest zones in the world. In January 2021, real snow fell in this area. Near the Algerian city of Ain Sefra, sand dunes were covered with snow and thin ice. This anomaly arose after the nighttime air temperature dropped to -2 degrees Celsius, although usually this indicator in January is 14 degrees. In fact, this is not the only case of atypical precipitation in the Sahara. Snow could also be seen here in 1979, 2016, and 2018. Over the past several hundred years, the climate in the desert has changed many times. Despite the severe drought, scientists suggest that in 15,000 years, the Sahara will be covered with green plants. Scientists in the U.S. are concerned about the appearance of a gigantic crack in the Sonora Desert in Arizona. It currently exceeds 2 miles in length, reaches 16 feet in width in some areas, and is 30 feet deep. This anomaly was first noticed in 2014 on Google Maps by geologist Joseph Cook. Each year, its scale is growing, and local farmers have already been warned about the risk of serious collapses in the adjacent area. What led to the formation of the cracks is not entirely clear. Initially, it was thought that the heavy rains in 2014 and 2016 were the cause. But the crack continued to grow, and then scientists suggested that precipitation was far from the root of the problem. Extensive water extraction for agricultural purposes could have led to the formation of a number of voids in the earth, which were exposed by heavy rains. Now, to ascertain the causes of the crack's formation and to prevent a disaster, American scientists have established 26 research sites in this area. If the geologists' assumptions prove to be correct, the Arizona cracks will become a striking example of how human activity negatively affects our planet. In Saudi Arabia, in the desert north of Al-Ula, is the ancient city of Hegra, also known as Madan Saleh. Magnificent temples and palaces carved right inside the rocks mesmerize and impress with their beauty and uniqueness. This place is now deserted, but 2,000 years ago, Hegra was a central trading city where caravans met, traveling along the main international trade route. Local merchants were the only ones allowed to transport spices and seasonings to many corners of the world. A complex hydraulic system was built in this city, thanks to which water was supplied to the city and agricultural lands. Hegra was built by the Nabateans, a Semitic people who created a kingdom in the territory of Edom and Transjordan. The main city of this semi-nomadic people was Petra, which still attracts tourists. The Nabateans were very smart. Their knowledge allowed them to direct rainwater from the mountains into cisterns and live comfortably even in the driest deserts, and turn them into blooming oases. And thanks to successful trade in spices and frankincense, they became an extremely wealthy people. The era of the Nabatean kingdom ended in 106 AD when they were conquered by the Romans. Their cities also became part of the Roman Empire, and their trade importance gradually declined, and eventually Petra and Hegra were devastated. Now, these two wonderful cities attract the attention of tourists in Jordan and Saudi Arabia. In 2021, footprints were discovered in the White Sands National Park in New Mexico. There was no doubt that they belonged to a human being. The heels and toe pads were well imprinted on the dried clay of the ancient lake's shore. The only question was determining the age of the footprints. Using radiocarbon dating of rupia seeds found in the fossils with the footprints, scientists were able to determine that ancient humans walked in this area about 23,000 years ago. This research forced anthropologists to completely revise the history of the first humans' emergence on what is now the United States. It was previously assumed that Cro-Magnon people migrated to these lands from what is now Siberia about 13,000 years ago. According to scientists, they couldn't have done so any earlier, as their path was blocked by impassable icebergs. The new study proved that anthropologists were off by a whole 10,000 years, and the first Cro-Magnon people were already walking on the American continent during the height of the Ice Age. This means that ancient humans had moved here even before the onset of glaciation. This discovery was one of the most significant for anthropologists in 2021. Lizards, snakes, and camels in the desert are not surprising to anyone. But a shoal of fish splashing in the sand in the middle of the desert looks more like a mirage. Only the frames from this video are real. The author of the video says that he couldn't believe his eyes when he saw an innumerable number of small fish. Everything that was happening reminded him of the 10 Egyptian plagues described in the Bible. This unusual phenomenon occurred in Pakistan after the flood in 2022. The footage clearly shows a stream of 1 million fish moving through the sand, after which a small amount of water becomes noticeable. It seems that heavy rains led to the fact that the water bodies were overflowing and the water spread to the desert, carrying fish along with it. However, it remains unclear where such an incredible number of fish came from, as the nearest bodies of water are too small. The fish invasion in the desert can be called a real miracle, the nature of which is almost impossible to explain. The fortress of Masada, located on the southwestern coast of the Dead Sea in Israel, remains one of the most impregnable structures of mankind to this day. The fortress was built by the high priest Jonathan more than 2,000 years ago, but its real history began in the era of King Herod I. Throughout his life, the king had made many enemies and was concerned for his life, so he turned his attention to the impregnable fortress of Masada and decided to reinforce it even more. Strong 15-feet walls were built all around the perimeter, on top of which 37 towers were erected. The location of Masada also ensured the maximum safety of the people inside the fortress. Masada was situated on broad rocks with steep drops. The height of the rocks on the eastern side reached 1,000 feet. Anticipating a lengthy siege, Herod ordered the construction of food storages and water collection systems. Access to the fortress was only possible along one narrow, winding trail, which is now a tourist route to this place. It would seem that nothing could have interfered with the lives of the people inside the fortress. However, in 66 AD, the First Jewish War broke out, and the territory of Israel came under the power of the Roman Empire. Masada remained the only place where people were able to escape the enemy onslaught for 3 years. The Romans were not going to retreat, and using a wide embankment with platforms for siege engines, they finally managed to breach the fortress walls. The people inside realized that they would come under Roman power and chose death for themselves. To avoid the sin of suicide, on the orders of their leader, a lottery was held to choose several people who in turn pushed all the others off the cliff. Nowadays, Masada is one of the most significant landmarks in Israel, as well as being included in the UNESCO World Heritage List. In the Mojave Desert of California, an unusual metallic object stands on a 100-feet stone hill. Due to its shape, it has been named the Mojave megaphone. This intriguing landmark has quite large dimensions, with a length of 6 feet and weighing around 100 kilograms. The Mojave megaphone quickly became a popular object, the purpose of which has sparked many debates. Some believe that the object is actually some kind of signal left by the American military to warn residents of the surrounding areas about dangers. According to another theory, it's not a loudspeaker at all, but part of a rocket system or a Venturi pipe. Another version suggests the object is a sighting device. Someone even thought to stretch a skin over it, demonstrating that it could be used as a drum. But the most plausible theory is associated with the Edwards U.S. Air Force Base in California, where a large number of experiments were carried out with sound barriers. The mysterious megaphone could have served as a measuring device, related to flights or shock and sound waves. Besides the mystery regarding the object's purpose, it remains unclear how it got there. The megaphone is fused from 2 parts, and it's possible that each of them was delivered to the hill separately. But looking at this pile of stones, it's hard to imagine how that was possible. Therefore, the Mojave megaphone has been classified as one of the most interesting unsolved mysteries of the century. Sri Yantra is an ancient Indian image of geometric figures, symbolizing harmony and integrity of existence. Sri Yantra is usually depicted by intersecting triangles, pointed upwards and downwards. It was such a pattern that was accidentally found by Lieutenant Bill Miller in August 1990 at the bottom of a dried-up lake in Oregon. Flying over the area, he noticed a gigantic geoglyph, the width of which was more than 1,300 feet. Surprisingly, on the same day, in the same place, Miller had not noticed any strange patterns. Other pilots also noted that they did not observe any activity here. It turns out that the mysterious image appeared within a day, and there was not a single person nearby. The U.S. authorities hid the find from the public for a month. After the news finally spread to the print media, a group of 4 artists led by Bill Witherspoon claimed that they were the authors of this unusual installation. According to them, Sri Yantra was depicted on the ground using a garden cultivator and ropes, which were used to achieve perfect proportions. Despite the fact that the creators of the image were supposedly found, the mystery of the Oregon Yantra remains unsolved. Experts believe that it is very difficult to draw such an accurate geometric image even on paper, and on such a scale it is practically impossible. Therefore, the Oregon Tantra is often associated with extraterrestrial civilizations. And that's all I have for now. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to rate it, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon. Your activity is the best reward for me. Thank you for your attention. See you soon. Goodbye.